Tweedledee and Tweedledum have a plan today. Here's what you can look forward to on today's Nice Guys on Business.
Well, you know what? It's extremely tough. And even today, I need to motivate myself more than ever, because you never get to a point where you can stand still. And that's one thing that I tell myself daily. You know, you rarely can just stay in one spot for a long period of time. You're either going to be moving forward or moving backward. And the only way that you can move forward is to keep pushing at it every single day.
Get it straight, Buster. I'm not here to say please. I'm here to tell you what to do. And if self-preservation is an instinct you possess, you better do it, and do it quick. I'm here to help. If my help's not appreciated, then lots of luck, gentlemen. If I'm curt with you, it's because time is a factor. I think fast, I talk fast. I need you guys to act fast if you want to get out of this. So, pretty please, with sugar on top. Listen to the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Running a business is hard. Being a business leader is even harder. The Nice Guys bring in top industry pros to help your business prosper in a tough world. Get real advice from real people to get you real results today. Now it's time for the Nice Guys on Business. Here's your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
All right, Nice Guy community. Today, Bart Butler, serial entrepreneur, owner of 6 businesses, and author of Redemption, Grace Extended, and The Real Price of Success, a #1 international bestseller in 4 countries. In the 70s and 80s, with divorce, bankruptcy, plus the loss of 3 brothers to violence and an incarceration, you'd think no one could rebound from such an epic tragedy. Well, today, his 180-degree rebound. Bart Butler is a serial entrepreneur. He's a philanthropist. He's an international best-selling author, and he's founded numerous firms, including a top-selling real estate firm, a real estate hedge fund, and a successful business. In addition to all of that stuff, we're going to hear from the man from himself, and we're going to talk to you about some of the things that he has done and some of the ways that you can reach out and help him help others as well. Bart, I'm excited to have you here. Welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you inviting me to come and chat with your audience for a little bit.
Well, when my friends over at Bestseller Publishing tell me, I have an author, you've got to hear this story, and then I read a little bit of the backstory about you before getting into your book, I'm thinking, how did you possibly rebound from all of that, not just to a life of normalcy, and even being average at that point would have been more than acceptable. You've gone beyond that to hit these ultra levels of success. Loss of 3 siblings, bankruptcy, divorce. Mm-hmm. How did you even find? Well, first of all, welcome, Bart. I'm excited to talk to you. But how did you even begin to pick yourself up and overcome any of those things? Let's start there.
You know, when you put all that together, it just make it seem like it's all big task. But to be honest with you, Doug, and once again, thank you for inviting me to talk about the book. It's been a matter of perseverance and faith. And that's why the book's called Redemption, Grace Extended, and The Real Price of Success, because I wanted to share a little bit about my story and what got me through. And it was really my faith that I was born with, that my mom instilled in me, that my family has always instilled in me. And that just gives me the strength to keep going and to be resilient and to never give up. You know, to borrow that Jimmy Valvano phrase from his famous ESPN speech, never, ever give up. And I've adopted that mantra years ago when I saw him give that speech. And it just motivated me that despite what you're going through, the trials and tribulations, you can always overcome and get through. You just got to stay strong and, you know, have a plan.
And I don't want to trivialize or marginalize any of the extreme tragedies that you've had in your life. Can you give me in a short way a little bit of that backstory so I can set this up for my community? That is, all we're trying to do is get from, hey, how do I put my feet on the ground every day and get out of bed and be the best me that I can be? You started from so far, more challenged than that. So can you tell me about some of those tragedies and how they actually played out in your life?
Well, yeah. So, to kind of go back to set it up to growing up, I'm the youngest of 8, 5 boys, 3 girls, the only boy to live past the age of 30. And growing up, my dad was a functional alcoholic, but my parents stayed together until death did them part. And that taught me something about marriage and family. They instilled that into me. They had partners, and I talk about that in the book. But it truly does take a village, to borrow Hillary Clinton's saying. My mom had coworkers who would invite me out to their house in the suburbs, and it gave me an opportunity to see what life outside of the hood really looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me something to aspire to. So all of those things formed my early opinions and gave me the ability to get through. Going through this, I developed some of these things that we'll talk about, strategies and so forth, but didn't really know what they were. I was living them day to day. I was creating them on the fly. And then when it got time to write this book, it's one of the main things I wanted to get out. And like my strategy called CES, contemplate, evaluate, and strategize. It's something that I discovered years ago that I do it every day, and I do it subconsciously. And so in the process of writing this book, I wanted to really lay it out so that I could talk about it and kind of give it some formal structure. So the process is, when you are trying to figure out where you are and what you want to do and where you want to go, the first thing that worked for me was to kind of contemplate my circumstances, what got me here, evaluate what I want to do, set my goals and objectives, and then strategize and come up with a plan to get me where I am to where I want to go. And not only just that part of it, but to come up with an A, B, C, and sometimes D plan, because I can tell you I've gone through all the alphabets.
What part of the country did you grow up?
Born and raised in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
At Georgetown Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is from New Orleans. She actually was brought to D.C. by Eleanor Roosevelt. And when they were traveling the South looking for African-American women to be secretaries. And that's how she got started. She worked in the DOD for about 40 plus years. Strong woman who believed in education. And that's why, my scholarship at Virginia Tech, which the book supports, is so important to me, because going to Virginia Tech was something that she and her boss, Colonel King, pretty much said, that's what you're going to do. You're going to Virginia Tech. It couldn't have turned out better.
I remember, and I grew up in Baltimore. I live on the West Coast now, but I grew up in Baltimore and spent much of my life and my career in Gaithersburg, Rockville, Montgomery County. So when you talk about suburbs, were you heading out to Silver Spring? Were you heading out to Potomac? Springfield, Virginia. I guess so. Northern Virginia, which is basically the same as Montgomery County when it comes to
County. Yep. And, quick story. I remember when the family invited me out, their son was at Virginia Tech. And so I stayed in his room. And it was the first time that I'd been with a family. It was a white family. And first time I was away. And I spent the entire weekend with them. It was kind of like, some of those TV shows where you just have a normal family life. You shoot hoops in the morning. You guys go to church. You eat dinner at the same time. I'd never done that before because, growing up in the hood, it can be a little helter-skelter.
Yeah.
You stay together and as a family unit, but it's a whole different dynamic. So when I came home from that weekend, that's the first time I realized that I lived in the hood, because I saw through this new lens what my life really looked like. And that was one of the things that got me started thinking long-term, I got to get out of here, and education is the key. And that's when Virginia Tech was planted in my mind. I was 11 years old.
I was going to say, how old were you at that time? As an 11-year-old, I imagine that's quite a shock to realize not only, hey, look, the things that are around me, this is not the only reality that I can live in. I can live in this other reality, which has, although your mom, it sounds like, did an amazing job with you and your siblings, and a functional alcoholic husband, which is again another challenge all on its own. Let alone having 8 kids on top of all that. But to push through it and see as an 11-year-old, hey, look, life could actually be a little bit different. When did you realize after that 11-year-old thing that happened to you that let's see, what do we want to call that? We want to call it a breakthrough or something like that. When you were able to see that 11-year-old get out of that environment, how long did it take you before you actually put some plans in place to be able to make that actually happen?
I would say it was about toward the end of junior high to high school, because by then I had started to figure out a little bit about who I was and the things that I wanted to do. I played football, and I was a manager for the basketball team, which was one of the best in the country, Dunbar High School.
Yeah.
And I acted in school plays. I was a student leader. I was an honor student. So I realized that I was a little different. Imagine back in 78, I'm going to school with a briefcase and a sport coat and slacks every day. And everybody else is just wearing jeans and t-shirts. And looking back, I realized that I had a totally different approach. It was like I was on a mission.
Okay, so all right, but there are some challenges, and the challenges are the gravitational pull of that neighborhood that you grew up in kept pulling you back to that environment, so much so that you also then experienced several other setbacks. Some of those setbacks being the loss of your siblings to violence. I want to talk about that for a second. A bankruptcy and divorce, which again would lead many people down a path of, look, I'm just going to stay down. I'm just going to stay in this environment. This is all I know, and this is where I'm going to be. And you went beyond that. So tell me about how the loss of those three siblings affected you positively or negatively, and the other epic tragedies that happened in your life.
Well, let me say this before I get into that briefly. Those things kind of fueled me. And there were times when I just said to myself, after so many setbacks, don't just be a regular guy.
Right.
You don't have to be this, big business mogul, any of that, and travel the world and do this and do that. Just be a 9-to-5 guy. But I realized it wasn't in me. So, the first major tragedy was and when I was 11, right before I went out to the family was in Springfield, I lost my oldest brother. He was murdered. Actually, it was next to my youngest brother. He was the next one up. He was 16, and he was killed right across the street from the house. And we were very close. So he was 16, I was 11. And that's when my parents said, we need to get him out, of the neighborhood. And that was the first time. Then jump forward to college. In college, 1982, my dad, my brother Levi was shot in the back in New Orleans on a drug deal that went bad. And 2 months later, we buried my dad. He had lung cancer. This was actually 84, because when he came down to campus for my graduation, that's when we realized it. Going back to 82, my oldest brother, he was murdered and will die in a police chase. So all those things gave me fuel. I couldn't screw off like the rest of the kids in college.
Right.
I had to, even though I tried, I really tried. But my dad sent me a letter at the end of my freshman year when I was flunking out, and he just told me to do my best. And Doug, despite him being a functional alcoholic, he knew what buttons to push to get us to do the best we could. And I turned it around and then went on to graduate. There were 8 of us that came from DC, and only 2 of us graduated. And I was one of those 2. But it's those getting knocked down and refusing to stay down. And so going through divorce, going through bankruptcy, even being incarcerated myself for 4 months because I made some bad decisions. All of that just really fueled the fire, gave me motivation to overcome, and gave me an opportunity to step back, reflect on where I am. And that's where the CES came from. That's when I started doing it subconsciously. How did you get here? That's the evaluate part. What role did you play? Accept mistakes that you made, and let's figure out how to get you back on track. So when I got out of incarceration in county jail, that was in 99, I set about starting back in the business, got into mortgages and real estate, and built it up into a top 5% real estate brokerage firm in the country. We
Incredible.
did 18 million, the best year. At the peak, which was 2008 and 9, everything fell apart. We had 15 members on our team. We had a mortgage affiliate partnership. a title company, a development company that bought lots. We had 50 lots under contract. We were building homes and we were fixing and flipping homes. So we were truly a one-stop shop. It was called the Home Team. We're based out of Columbia, Maryland. Mm-hmm. And we really just ran with it and built it up so quick. But it came crashing down just as fast.
Well, I'll tell you, as a guy that spent about 10 years in Ellicott City, 21043 area code, I mean, zip code.
Yeah, well.
So you were competing with Craig Northrup and the.
I was in the office with Craig. I was at Long and Boston.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I remember on the trips, I used to be with Craig, the top producer trips. We hung out with him in Rome, British Columbia. When I was shutting down my business, I offered to sell it to him. So we met for lunch. We knew each other. We were competitors.
Yeah.
I considered myself the Black Craig Northrup because I was the number one African-American realtor in Howard County.
That is amazing. I only had to go 2,700 miles away from home to move here to find you in my life, Bart.
Exactly.
That's very funny. I lived in that part of the world for about 10 years and just enjoyed so very much Ellicott City. My kids were Howard High graduates, went to Bonnie Branch Middle School.
My wife went to Howard High.
No kidding. Well, it is such a small world. I want to chat for just a quick second, just about, what's interesting about it is you had the same, or the people in your neighborhood and your family had the same chances to redemption themselves, and you took advantage of it. What voice was calling for you? Where were you hearing this call from? How much of a role did religion play in it? Maybe none, or maybe a lot. How much spirituality played into it, or how much just intestinal fortitude did you have in order to do it? So where do you find the gift to pull from and that voice to hear? Where did it come from?
I would say all of the above, but number one clearly is my faith, my religion, my foundation, and that all comes from my mom. And so I would literally hear her voice because she would pray for me every day. Mm-hmm. I'd hear her encouragement. So all the foundational tools that she gave me growing up are the things that allowed me to push forward, because I never wanted to disappoint her. I knew she sacrificed for me to go away. Only two of us graduated from college out of 8, the youngest 2, and I was the only one to go away. And I wanted to honor both her and my dad with graduating, with doing something special. And I think we did that. I'm on 2 boards at Virginia Tech now. We have the scholarship that we're looking to endow. So we definitely want to push book sales. Just go to the BartButlerStory.com and oversee 6 family-owned businesses, all in real estate services and construction management. And then, of course, we have the book that I'm looking to make a New York Times bestseller in addition to international.
I wish you a lot of luck in doing that. And for some reason, I feel like with all of the motivation and push behind you, you'll get it there. Hey, for those that are in our community that you can talk directly to, the entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, side hustlers, business owners, leaders that are out there, the ones that don't have, and we talked about this before I hit record, we don't have the advantage of having any kind of venture capital money behind us, but we're bootstrapping from the very beginning. Give those people in our community some advice that may not have experienced the amount of hurdles that you have experienced, but just going through everyday life. How do you get up every day? Again, put your feet on the ground, be the best you that you can be, motivate. How do you stay motivated in that? How can you advise those in our community that need the motivation?
Well, you know what? It's extremely tough. And even today, I need to motivate myself more than ever, because you never get to a point where you can stand still. And that's one thing that I tell myself daily. You rarely can just stay in one spot for a long period of time. You're either going to be moving forward or moving backward. And the only way that you can move forward is to keep pushing at it every single day. So every day I wake up, I do devotion. And for me, it's a matter of faith and scripture, but to some people, they have their motivational sources. They do yoga, they do their mind time. I think that's critical because you got to clear your head and you got to do that first thing in the morning to prepare yourself for the day. I use all kinds of organizational tools to organize myself. I mean, I'm definitely an A-type and I'm a lister, and I check off everything on my list.
Me too.
10 times a day. I literally look at my list over and over and over again. And it's not too much that I have to get everything done. I get as much done as I can, and then I move it to the next day. Because my viewpoint is, and this has helped sustain me, is that you never ever get there. This is a marathon that you'll never finish until it's time to go home. So you just want to enjoy the race, you hit those inclines and declines, and you just keep on going. You look at the beautiful trees, you enjoy as much as you can, and one day you may wake up and you go, wow, I may not be where I thought I would be, but I'm in a pretty good place right now. And then you can start to contemplate slowing down a little bit. In my business, I use my brain a lot, so I try to duplicate myself. And I would tell any of your audience to duplicate yourself as much as possible. A couple of things I recommend is, have these philosophies that kind of guide me.
Mm-hmm.
Make more, work less. Work smarter, not harder.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to be as efficient as possible, do the things that will yield me the best outcomes so I can spend the time with those people that I want to spend time with, doing those things that I like to do. And that includes making money while I'm sleeping. So to do that, you have to duplicate yourself. And a lot of times that's going to be some kind of business. For me, it's real estate. But, don't get discouraged when you can't get the financing. I've heard stories about a lot of people who the EIDL ran out of money and they were hoping to start new ventures and enterprises, and it didn't work out. So now you got to go to plan B. You just got to keep bootstrapping, maybe start smaller. And I've had to do that, just kind of, scale down your plan just so you can kind of get going and then build it up from there. And make sure you have good advisors around you. I think I never had good accountability partners, but I try to surround myself with those today, right, because they help keep me straight and narrow. I can, call them and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we motivate and encourage each other, which I think is extremely important. You got to have that accountability partner in business and in life.
While the entire story is certainly motivational and inspirational that Bart has just shared, that last 2-minute monologue that he just gave you, that's gold. That's the stuff that if you just take your time and you understand that there is no fast track to success, that success will require some hard work, but the duplication thing, staying in your zone of genius, as our friend Gay Hendricks has said with I like The Big Leap, stay in your zone of genius, duplicate yourself, get rid of some of those tasks that you don't have to do, that you can hire somebody else to do. And you don't have to start big. Start small, but keep going. I'm not a big shot. I'm a little shot that keeps shooting, man.
That's right.
So just be that guy. If you want more information about how to help, the scholarship fund that Bart is talking about, just head over to thebartbutlerstory.com. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes for that. You can also get access to his book and a little bit more about what he does and how he does it. Bart, your story is amazingly inspirational, and I so very much appreciate you and everything you've accomplished, and I respect where you are and what you have come from to get to where you are right now, Bart.
Thank you so much, Doug. I wish we had more time, and I'd love to come back and do a follow-up because I'm still writing the next chapter.
you know what we're going to do. I know we're all writing the next chapter, right, brother? So what we're gonna do is Bart at the beginning of this, he may not have realized it, but he set himself a goal that I can't help hold him accountable to, but I can certainly help reward him when he gets there. And Bart, when that book hits the New York Times bestseller, you have an invitation to come back here and share more about what you did. Excellent. And how you did it, because I know my community wants to hear about that. So challenge given. Is it accepted?
Challenge accepted.
All right, man. Hey, thanks.
You got a deal.
Thanks. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being here on the show today. Hey,
All right. Rest of your day.
Nice guy community. Never underestimate the power of nice or the power of a great backstory to help inspire you to take that next step forward. Special thanks to Bart. All of his information, including access to his story and his scholarship fund, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
Click on the Patreon link in the show notes. And for as little as $2 a month, you can help support the podcast and get access to fun bonus content. That's like half a cup of Starbucks coffee once a month, a grande, double shot, maybe a little flavoring. Thanks for listening. I mean, seriously, you need to cut back on your caffeine anyway.